box in an effort to continue their community outreach efforts as they strive to reduce loss of life, injury, and property loss. So over the next 90 minutes, you'll be exposed to some extraordinary programs that your peers have developed and implemented. We have asked the presenters to provide the audience with the following information during their presentations. So we're asking them for a program overview, technologies used, approvals required, associated costs, partnerships established, outcomes, results, the outreach, of course, the most important part, the lessons learned as they struggled through this, and at the end, their contact information. As Laura indicated, we have scheduled 8 programs that will be presented this morning, and each presentation will be about 10 minutes in length. I'll ask the presenters to be mindful of their time and respect the 10-minute time limit. Should attendees wish to ask questions, please type the questions in the chat box. Shannon will be monitoring the chat box, and at the end of all the presentations, we'll swing back and do a quick Q&A. When you ask your questions, please start by using the presenter's name so we know who the question is directed at. So for example, if I was presenting, you'd start off Kevin. And as an example, what support did you receive from corporate communications, if that was your question, just so we know who to assign the question to and who should be responding to it. We have some simple housekeeping rules. So at this time, we'll ask that you please turn off your camera and mute your microphone. The chat box is found at the bottom of your screen. If you click it, the chat box will open on the right-hand side of the screen, and then you can start typing your comments or questions that you have. If you want to see the speaker and the slide at the same time, hover the mouse over the top of your screen to see the various screen configurations and select the one that you'd like. This is an important one. We do not have technical support for this presentations, and once the slides go live, we'll not be able to see you. If you do have technical problems, type them into the chat box, and as public educators always do, please try and help each other out. If you have audio issues, check the settings. If you're using a headset or earphones, it should be on the setting of headphones. If not, it should be set on the computer audio. We'll run this workshop will run for about 90 minutes, and then we'll have questions at the end. This session will be recorded and then sent to all participants. Again, I'd like to thank Laura King from NFPA for partnering with us in our effort to connect the public educators from across the province of Ontario and bring forward some wonderful out-of-the-box community outreach programs to the forefront. The Association of Fire Educators hopes that you enjoy your workshop and it sparks some creativity within your own community outreach efforts. At this time, I'll pass the workshop back over to facilitator Laura King from NFPA. Thank you all, and please enjoy your workshop.
Thanks very much, Kevin, and away we go. Up first, Sarah from North Perth Fire Department.
Thanks, Laura. Good morning, everybody. My name's Sarah. I'm the public educator for the North Perth Fire Department. And what we're talking to you guys about today is our summer fire safety initiative, which we called FIRESAFETYROCKS. So to give you a little bit of a background about that program and how it came to be, in North Perth already, there had been lots of people painting rocks and hiding them within the community, typically in park settings. And if you're out for a walk at any time of day, you can see mostly kids, sometimes adults, out searching for these rocks. The goal is to find a painted rock, hide it somewhere else for other people to see. Parents often take pictures of their kids finding the rocks, posting them on social media. There's groups on social media dedicated solely to this trend. I'm sure it's happening everywhere, but it kind of has taken North Perth by storm. So we decided that we were going to jump in on that trend. So our program overview, during COVID-19, just like every other department I'm sure is struggling with, our normal traditional public education efforts were not possible. Schools weren't in session. We didn't have that means of reaching out to local residents. So we had to start thinking outside the box. When I was out for a walk one evening, I live near the main park in Listowel, and I saw 20 kids probably running around looking for rocks. They were excited. The parents were engaged. Every time they found one with a cool design on it, they were excited and had to go show it to their parents. So it got me thinking, what if we got involved? Instead of just painting the rocks, we would put our fire safety messages on them. So think of short messages that could be quickly written on a rock, quickly read by whoever finds them. And then we would hide them in the park and have them answer fire safety questions and tag us on social media when they find the rocks. So to get started, obviously first we had to find some rocks. We worked kind of with our Parks and Recreation department a little bit on this. They're outside all the time, cutting grass, doing yard maintenance at a lot of our facilities. So they found a few rocks for us. We were able to find some on our own. Works best if you can find something with a flat surface to draw a picture on. Overall, our program was relatively low cost. So not a lot of cost involved. We had to think up a hashtag that we could track on social media. And then in addition to the rocks that we found, we had to go and buy some paint, which easily to find. You can find it any department store, dollar store, any craft stores that you have locally. And we just used a normal acrylic paint, comes in a bottle. I think it's $1 a bottle. And then you'll need some sort of a clear top coat. We used a brush-on Varathane, but lots of people in the community that have been painting rocks have also posted that they use a spray-on, which would make the process even easier. Paintbrushes, we found that fine tip paintbrushes worked the best, and we had some paint markers already kicking around that we used. So once you have all of your materials, to get started, you're going to paint the entire surface of a rock. So we chose a variety of different colors, tried to stick with some bright colors that as you're walking around outside, it's going to catch your attention and you're going to wonder what it is. So paint the entire surface of your rock, let that dry. We just painted a coat, let it dry overnight, and then the next day came back to paint on our fire safety related pictures. Now, I'm not an artist, so in the pictures that you see, you're going to notice that maybe you could do a better job of the artwork, but they got the message across. They were fire safety related. So you paint your pictures on, and this is when you're going to go in with either your fine tip brush or your paint marker and write your fire safety message. So we did all of ours in the form of a question so that when somebody found the rock, they could go on to our social media, tag us in the picture of them with the rock, and give us the answer to their question. So up to you whether you use paintbrush or fine tip marker. I found marker was easier for me and people could actually read what I had written on the rock. Once you have all of the artistic creative stuff done and it's dried, you're going to go over the top of the rock with your clear top coat. So ours was a brush on. We also decided to take a clipping, a piece of paper, and put the instructions on it. And we also just sealed that on there with the top coat. So that's why it looks so shiny. It's the top coat holding that onto the rock. So when somebody picks it up, they look at the bottom of the rock and they know exactly who put it there and what the instructions are for them. So after all of our rocks were painted, ready to go, we chose to place our rocks in various locations in North Perth. So we wanted to, most of the rocks that are in the community are typically in the Listowel area, but we wanted to get everybody involved. So we hid some rocks in the 3 towns where we have fire stations. So we put 5 rocks in Moncton, 5 in Atwood, and 9 in Listowel. And just geographical size-wise, Listowel's the biggest. That's why they had the most rocks. We hid them mostly in park areas. So we wanted them to be in places that are safe for kids to be out wandering around looking for these rocks. So not near any roadways or anything, in more park settings. We shared a post on our Twitter and our Instagram. We don't have a Facebook account, but our municipality has one that is consistently monitored and they're active on it pretty frequently. So they shared for us on Facebook to reach that audience as well. We told them that we had hidden the rocks. We showed them all of the photos of the rocks that were hidden and explained kind of the rules, what we were looking for. And within a couple of days, we started to see our posts popping back up on social media using our hashtag FIRESAFETYROCKS. So by giving it that hashtag, we were able to track easily by typing that in, see what's local to us, and who has found the rocks. So the next slide just shows, this is a poster that we created to let everybody know what we were doing, what we expected them to do, kind of how we wanted things to work. So this was sent out mostly social media, received quite a bit of attention on social media and got people excited. We received lots of positive comments about a creative new way of getting our messages out. And some of the results that we had from our program, it's been pretty positive in the community. People have been excited about finding the rocks. The same excitement that they have when they find any kind of rock. So it's not specifically that they're excited about finding a fire safety one, but when they see the fire truck on the rock, they're more excited. And when a smaller kid finds it, I've heard that they're excited to run it back over to their parents and ask them what it says, which has sparked a conversation with people. We've had participation from all 3 communities that we have put rocks in, and we found all 3 social media outlets have had people participating. So no real places that we would cut back from. So I was a little bit more concerned, are people on Twitter going to participate? Are they not? But we've had quite a few people on Twitter tagging us, sending us private messages. A couple issues that we have run into, which is kind of just common with the trend of finding these painted rocks. Once we put the rocks out, people find them and they relocate them. That's part of the fun of the game. So there's no way for us to go back out into the community and gather up all of the rocks, or there's no way for us to tell somebody where specifically a rock is. When we placed them all, they were placed in park settings, but we're not 100% confident that that's where they still are. You always have the risk of, did somebody take that rock home, or did they actually replace it for somebody else to continue to enjoy finding? Another thing that we have heard, and that is pretty common on the Facebook groups dedicated to these hidden rocks, is when people are out for a walk, they don't always have a cell phone with them. So they aren't able to take a picture. We've had a couple cases where that happens, and I've received messages from people saying, hey, we found this rock, here's our answer. We didn't have a cell phone with us, so there's no picture. And obviously the other one, when it comes to using social media, the other thing that we run into is some people just don't have social media access. So one big positive that we've learned from this program is that it can continue as long as there's interest. So our rocks are placed out there right now, and they can be hidden, rehidden, relocated for as long as the paint stays on it, as long as people are interested. So we launched the program probably a couple months ago now, and just the other day I received a message that somebody had found one of our rocks that was relocated to a place we didn't put it. So there is still interest. We are still getting messages from people. Overall for us, it's been a fairly low cost and effective way to engage with people without that face-to-face interaction that the pandemic has made a little bit more difficult. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask on the chat or shoot an email to the email address on your screen, and we'd be happy to chat with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. It was beautiful. So there are questions coming in the chat, which is great, and we'll go to those at the end. We're going to move on now to virtual station tours. If I can just ask first, I don't know if the rest of you guys can hear it, but someone has joined us on the phone and we can hear everything you're saying and doing. So if you can mute your phone kindly, that would be a great help. Okay, so up next is Whitney from Chatham-Kent. Take it away, Whitney.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah, me from Chatham-Kent, obviously the public educator there, and I'm going to talk about the virtual station tours that we did. So, like most fire departments, station tours are a regular thing that that we did. We have a lot of stations here in Chatham-Kent. We're a composite department, so we have 3 full-time stations and 16 volunteer stations. That are all visited quite regularly, but obviously never virtually. So I came across the idea, it was actually corporate communications that was doing a lot of COVID updates using a Facebook Live platform. Obviously their meetings were a lot more structured in terms of, you know, having very important people sitting at a table discussing what was going on municipally in terms of updates with the pandemic. And I had seen a lot of fire departments that were doing videos to interact with their community. And I thought that that was a really great idea. And then with my research, I thought, you know what, maybe we should combine the two. Everything that I read was saying that if you do something live, you tend to trend longer and get more interactions. So I held my breath and decided to give it a try. Next slide, please, Laura. So the great thing about using the Facebook Live is that for most of us, it's going to be free. As long as you have a Facebook account, we have a department account, so it's a business account. And if you have a cell phone, which our department provides one to the public educators, so there was no cost associated with those 2 things. I'll go to the next one. There were a few things that I wanted to mention that were nice to have. When I first started with the idea, I actually borrowed this equipment from corporate communications. They had some microphones and a tripod, so I was able to borrow that when I needed it. But as it started to pick up and more of our stations were interested in doing the Facebook Live tours, I ended up purchasing a mic set that came with a tripod, and it was in the range of about $300. There are cheaper mics available. I just purchased it on Amazon. If you do some research, you can see ones that work quite well and whatnot. I did provide at the bottom here the link to the microphone and tripod set that I purchased. And I did find that compared to some of the Facebook Live videos that I watched on the internet, the difference between having the microphone and not having the microphone does make a difference, especially when working with loud equipment like we have. So next slide, please. So the first thing I did is I actually created an event on Facebook to let people know that that it was coming. So yeah, Facebook allows you to create events, obviously. And then I also promoted the Facebook event on our Twitter and our Instagram page as well. You can see some of the highlights there that those are not the individuals that actually watched the virtual tour. That was the interaction from people who just saw the event. So some pretty good numbers just in terms of, you know, showing that we're doing something. And later on in the slide, I'll show you guys how many people actually do interact and watch our Facebook tours. So next slide, please. So I tried to show here how to get onto a Facebook Live. I'm pretty sure that most people probably know, but just in case you don't, I used my cell phone. You go to create a regular post and you will see that live video, which is the red little camera there, is one of the options. And once you open that, it will ask you to start your live video. The one thing that I did learn is that it's best to flip your cell phone on its side. And when I was doing a trial for the first station tour that I ever did, it actually was showing that we were kind of upside down, because you do have to tilt your cell phone kind of forward to get it to grab and do that side profile. So sorry about my lovely picture here, but in number 3, you can kind of see that this is what the audience sees. It's you live on video, and people comment in real time. So one of the things that I made sure to do as the video was going, the more people comment, the more people like your video, the more, the further it goes kind of in the social media land. So constantly asking people where they were watching from, if they had any questions, who's watching, that kind of thing, I found increased the amount of people who were interacting with my video. Next slide. So as I said, when I was doing the research about doing actual videos that were kind of more edited and less raw and doing Facebook Live, everything that I read said that Facebook Live gets more exposure. So on the videos, I mean, some of them are definitely better than others, but we had about anywhere from 1,000 to over 6,000 people who viewed the videos. So comments were anywhere from 30 to over 100 comments on them. And it definitely increased our social media footprint. People saw that the videos were coming, they would like our pages, they would comment. And of course, I could go back, and anybody who liked or commented on the video, I could invite them to like our Facebook page. So some of the great things about that is that people who live in a certain community would normally only visit that community fire station, whereas this gave the opportunity for someone who lives on the other side of our municipality to see what is happening in a different community. So it was nice to get that exposure for, you know, the kind of bringing the community together. Next slide. So some of the things that I learned from my Facebook Live experience, obviously, is that live is live. And when there's issues or problems, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, but just try and roll with the punches. I did make sure that when I was meeting with a station, that I got there quite early. We tried to do it on the same time and day, so Thursdays at 2 o'clock, but I would show up at noon and try and do some dry runs and outlines and have an idea of what we were going to do at the station. I did run into some technical problems. We had mics that weren't working. The wind was a big problem, especially when we were up in a ladder truck or outside on a windy day. I did get comments of people not being able to hear. And the other thing that I found is not everybody translates onto the internet in an engaging way. So there was definitely some station tours where the firefighters who were talking were really engaging and animated and to the point. And there were some firefighters who were a little bit more quiet and timid. And those videos, if there was a lot of talking and not a lot of interaction, were definitely not viewed as much as the ones that were very interactive. I already mentioned the questions to engage the audience. I found that was good. And the best Facebook Lives that I think we had were the ones with the most action and the most excitement. Be real, show people what you're doing, and don't be scared to make mistakes. I mean, it happens. One of the things that I did learn was in the beginning, we were showing a lot of the equipment and big rig trucks. And I mean, that's fabulous. And that's what people want to see. But I'm an educator and I'm trying to get out those prevention messages. And that was something that in the first few station tours, I really dropped the ball with. I tried to incorporate them into some of the other Facebook Live tours, but I'm still working on getting really creative with those messages. People don't want to sit there and just listen to you talk. So I'm hoping that, you know, going forward with Fire Prevention Week and whatnot, I can get a little bit more creative in terms of how to engage and really get people interested in those prevention messages. Next slide. So here's my contact information. I didn't go into huge detail in terms of how exactly to do the Facebook Live. So if it's something that you haven't done and you're interested in, please give me a shout. I can walk you through it. You know, we can do a face-to-face, or not a face-to-face, a video face-to-face, I guess. And I can show you exactly how to do it on your cell phone. So thanks for having me share, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Whitney. So up next, we have Jess, and I know Jess was having some audio issues, so let's see if everything's working. Jess, how's it going? Okay. Shannon, do you happen to have a note from Jessica?
I can see her and she's talking, but she's on mute. Can you unmute yourself, Jess?
I'll see if I can too.
I can see her talking.
Okay, I'm just finding her here. It's not letting me unmute Jessica. So Jessica, can you hear? Can you unmute yourself? Yeah, I'm not able to do it from this end. Okay, I'm going to turn my video on and see if Jess can see that. That's not going to work. Okay.
Oh, it's unmuted. Can't hear.
Jessica, can you hear us? We can't hear you. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to move through to the next presentation. I'm just going to skip these slides and we'll let Jessica work on that. Shannon, maybe you can text her and we'll try to come back to it, okay? So I'm just going to flip through these really quickly. And then Taylor, that means you're up. Let's see if we can hear you.
Can everyone hear me okay?
There we go. Awesome.
Good. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Taylor McDougall. I am the fire inspector here with Innisfil Fire and Rescue Services. It is a privilege to be presenting for all of you today. Thank you for all of our peers for nominating us for this opportunity to share our experiences. Awesome, Laura. So if you don't mind just skipping one more ahead to our program overview. Thank you so much. So as you are all aware, the month of March brought a whole lot of unknowns for our department, as I'm sure it did yours as well. And here in Innisfil, we are a very small community and everybody got super scared very quick and kind of turtled and hibernated indoors. So here in our prevention division, it consists of FPO Mike Symes and myself. And we wanted to come up with an innovative fire safety activity to get everybody back outdoors and kind of engaged again with each other and the public. I know it's hard to do because of COVID-19 and all the challenges that it brought with social distancing and whatnot, but we made it work, hence the creation of Chalk One Up for Fire Safety. So in our chalk packages, we included 8 pieces of different colored chalk. We included smoke alarm fact sheets, as well as a home escape grid plan, all that were pulled from the NFPA website. We included magnets and bookmarks in the packages as well that we were able to use from other festivals and booths that unfortunately we had to cancel this time around. Our incentive to get everybody engaged in this was pizza. Everyone loves pizza. So we put out a $50 Domino's gift card incentive for the winning family. Next slide, Laura, please. Thank you so much. So technologies and approvals here in Innisfil, we used a mapping system referred to as MORE. Other departments might recognize it as Amanda or City View. And that was the system that we used to ensure we were targeting all of the audience members that we wanted to. And for this program, we focused on youth and young families. For our social media, we predominantly use our Twitter feed, so the department's feed, FPO Symes' Twitter feed, and myself. So we were able to like, retweet, and then share through Twitter where we were going to be delivering the packages and when. So we noticed at first it was really hard to keep up with the request demand of, hi, can I have a package? So ultimately we used our more mapping system. We targeted areas where we knew from previous festivals had high areas and population of young families and youth. For our delivery locations, like mentioned, we use more. FPO Symes gave the approvals for the delivery locations as well as what was going to be in the packages. In the packages, we included some instructions for the families, letting them know kind of what we were looking for. So we were hoping to engage families. We wanted to have them show us their home escape route and their meeting spot, as well as we wanted them to check their smoke alarms. So the CHOP program gave us a great way to kind of get into people's homes, if you will, to ensure that they're all fire safe. For the program advertisement, we worked really closely with library staff. They were a huge asset for us, and they helped us come up with our lovely program advertisement that we used. The 12 images that you can see on the rear of the van right now were the winners that we used for the prevention graphic. And this is our pub ed and our investigation van. So this is the one that is throughout our community all the time, 5 days a week. And so we figured this would be the best way to advertise our Chalk One Up for Fire Safety advertisement and graphic. Next slide, please, Laura. Awesome. So on here we can see associated costs and partnerships. So Chalk total came in at $2,500, and we were fortunate enough to not have to pay for that. So Alcona Home Hardware is one of our awesome partnerships here in our municipality, and they were very nice enough to donate half of the cost of that chalk. The other half came from our Parks and Recreation program. They unfortunately had to cancel an event called Neighborhood Nights. And Neighborhood Nights is an event here in our municipality where we kind of bring the fun neighborhood to you. So this gives youth an opportunity to engage with a mobile youth center where they could play basketball, hockey, all that fun stuff that unfortunately right now because of COVID we couldn't do. Youth have the opportunity to interact with library staff as well as our staff here from the fire department. Swag was already existing. What we had in stock from, like I mentioned before, our sadly canceled booths and festivals, as well as the bags, all previous inventory. Signs of Innovation, you can see their logo on the bottom of the slide here. They did a fantastic job on our graphic on the rear of the van. So like I said before, it was on there and it'll be coming up again. Next slide, please, Laura. So for lessons learned, March and April was not the nicest of weather for us. So if we were to run this program, we would definitely be starting it later in the year and try to avoid all that gunky rain and snow weather. Social media, we've learned, worked really well. Like I said, we posted on Twitter and it kind of took a spin of its own. It exploded on Instagram. It was seen on Facebook as well as TikTok. So as a department, we are currently looking at expanding our social media platforms. Another lesson learned was social distancing with children is going to be hard no matter who you are. So in the future, if we were to run this event again, I would definitely approach them without my mask on to start. I noticed a lot of children were intimidated as soon as they saw us with the mask on. People in uniform are kind of intimidating to begin with. I would probably ask them just to stay where they are as I don all my proper PPE, and then we can kind of interact in a safer way. Finally on here, we want to maintain those community memberships. So we noticed it was resourceful and useful for us to maintain that membership with Home Hardware as well as our Parks and Rec programs, so that if there's ever an event again in the future where we're looking for a partnership or maybe something to use, those community partnerships are always there for us. Real life experiences, everything was awesome. The children were they were well on showing up to, I'm so sorry, I lost that point there. My goodness. Results, 1,930 package drop-offs. So in total, we delivered 1,930 packages and we received 35 photos back. Out of those 35 photos, there were probably an extra 30 plus in excess that we couldn't use just due to privacy reasons. So we encountered some RCMP members in our community who requested their child's image not be shared. There were a few child custody battles. And then people would just realize they forgot to crop out their license plate or their home address. And for them, that was a big deal that they didn't want shared. If we have time, Laura, we are able to play the link, I believe. If not, we can move on to the next slide. So for, oh,
I'll try.
might not, I might. No worries if not.
I have no audio. Do you? Can you guys hear it?
No.
Okay. Sorry about that. That's,
yesterday.
it always works yesterday. All right. Just a moment.
Oh, sorry, just there we go. So this is our program advertisement. We just wanted to share it at the end for you all to check out and see. Again, this was created with our library staff who worked closely with us. FPO gave the final approval on this before it was shared across Twitter. And on the left-hand side there, I've included FPO Symes's contact information. I don't yet have a business card, so if anybody has any questions, please reach out through him and they'll be passed along. Thank you all so much for joining. This is a new experience for me and I'm looking forward to growing and meeting all of you again one day. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. What a rock star. That's wonderful. Thank you, Taylor. All righty. Anybody know if we have audio with Jess?
We do not yet. She's still working on it.
Okay. All right. So that means we'll move along to
Correct.
Corey in Burlington. Corey, you all set?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
All righty. We can hear you.
Great. Good morning, everybody. My name is Corey Holloway. I'm the Public Education Officer for the Burlington Fire Department. And I wanted to start by saying thank you very much for inviting me to present. It's exciting to present something that you've worked towards. Okay, next slide. So as we all know, our most effective way of spreading the fire and life safety message is obviously face-to-face and being out in our community. And unfortunately, that's been put on pause. And while we're adjusting to the new norm, and I use that term loosely, I wanted to find a creative way to stay engaged and connect with the community. So my objective was to create an innovative online engagement tool to educate our community on fire and life safety. So I used YouTube, clips, Facebook, Twitter, and iMovie. Next slide. So the idea was to solicit the community for their questions for the fire department. What is it that you really want to know? What is your burning question? I was the main contact and driver of the initiative. Approving questions, creating the scripts, editing was completed by myself with the help of my CFPO, Colin Leahy, who did content review and actually participated. I felt it was important to have a consistent script, the same format, the intro, the ending was always the same, always introduce the initiative and always conclude with where you can find more information and how to submit your questions, finally driving people to our website. So the criteria was one lead with reps from fire prevention and suppression, public education content in every answer, appeal to various demographics, answer to be in less than 2 minutes, which is really hard for a public educator. Next was, and this is in blue because this was a requirement by the city, so I had to display the Burlington Fire Department logo and the City of Burlington logo. It had to be closed caption, and that's one of the reasons why I used YouTube. And I wanted a consistent format. And so it begins. An introduction video was created to kick off the initiative and share over social media, Facebook and Twitter. And I'm assuming you can't play that black box then there, Laura.
No, I should be able to play it. Let's see, guys.
Perfect.
Okay, let's see. Give me a thumbs up if you have the audio because I have to unplug mine. Okay.
So community members were asked to submit their burning questions to be answered by the fire department. Questions were submitted through the general email box, by commenting over Twitter or Facebook, by posting their videos on Twitter or Facebook and tagging us. I would send the question to the related division and ask for a videotaped answer. I provided the script, and along with the CFPO, Leahy reviewed all the answers, seeking additional guidance when needed. The video answer was played on the same day of the week at the same time. It was Thursdays at noon. And I also scheduled it 4 to 6 times after the initial posting, running up until the next video planned. I would always promote the next video a few days in advance by posting some teasers on social media. Next. Whoops. So what was asked? We had a good variety of questions from different age groups, and no matter what the question, I always tied in a safety message. So for example, when asked, do you get to every fire on time? The answer addressed the number of stations in Burlington and our typical response time, but I also added the following to the script. Make sure your home has working smoke alarms on every level so you can be safely outside when we arrive. Know your address or location when you call 911. Make sure your house number is visible from the road. Keep the area around the fire hydrants clear, especially from snow in the winter. And if you're in a car, make sure that you pull to the right and stop when you hear the emergency vehicles coming. Next. So I was very fortunate to have some willing participants that didn't require a lot of arm twisting. We had 12 videos in total with participation from fire prevention, communications, maintenance, suppression, public education. The fire prevention, the CFPO, and the FPO all answered questions. Supervisor of dispatch, acting captain and a firefighter, myself, the public educator, and our mechanic supervisor. Next. So we did have some speed bumps. Obviously, engaging the public can be a challenge at the best of times. Trying to engage online really isn't any easier, I found. Maybe it's the size of the municipality, I'm not sure. I worked with staff to help support the initiative, sharing on their personal feeds to help spread the word and even asking them to participate. I had to quickly learn new apps, editing, etc., as this was done on my own without help from corporate comms as they were tied up with COVID-related projects. It's also very time consuming, but for me, I really didn't mind because I really enjoyed doing this project. The hardest part was actually filming in one take. So the end result, for an example, the end result, if you want to press play, this is one of the videos. This was actually the first one that we did, and the speaker being Colin Leahy, who's our CFPO. If you hit enter, Laura, maybe the YouTube icon will pop up. All the videos are posted on our YouTube channel, so if you're interested in seeing the final product or one of the videos that we did, you can certainly go to our YouTube channel. So I'm sorry I didn't put my contact information, but I can certainly provide that if interested. The cost was, I had no expenses incurred with this one because it was done all over social media, and we just used our department issued phones to video. And that's what's your burning question.
Wait, we lost you, Laura. Nope. Still nothing. Maybe we'll get John to go ahead then.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shannon. And
No
can
problem.
you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, so first and foremost, good morning, everybody. Thanks to Laura, NFPA, Shannon and Alex, Shannon and Kevin at the association. So good morning, everyone. My name is John Percy. I am the Public Education Officer with the City of Waterloo Fire Rescue, and I'm honored to present to you our Google Classroom that I created. Next slide, please. So here we are. This is just a snapshot of the Waterloo Fire Rescue, Fire and Life Safety Public Education Google Classroom that I created as part of the Fire Prevention Division. And I'll go through it in a sec. This is just what the folks will see when they do sign up to it. Next slide, please. So as we all aware, back in March break of this year, all the schools closed due to COVID-19. So I had a couple of thoughts. So first and foremost was how, as an educator, was I going to continue providing fire and life safety education as mandated by the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, specifically during a pandemic. So what I did is I researched our school boards here in the region of Waterloo, the district, Catholic, and private school boards. And the first thing that I compared myself was, as educators, we are teachers. So I did that comparison. So I looked at the school boards to see how they were continuing their education with a school curriculum. And I noticed they were using the Google Classroom, and that's where I got the idea from. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what I did is I set up my Google Classroom using my personal Gmail account. And I'll get to that in a sec. Basically, we didn't need a lot. I just need a reliable internet Wi-Fi signal. Basically, to set it up, there was no cost other than my labor time and labor hours on it. And my goal, my objective with it was to focus on elementary school children to ensure that they were still receiving fire life safety curriculum while continuing to be taught, even though they're at home. So I had two incentives. I wanted to ensure that the fire safety curriculum was still being followed through the curriculum at the schools. And obviously with self-isolation, more kids were at home, more emphasis was put on home fire safety because obviously we had a bigger audience. Next slide. So as you can see on the right there, there's a photo of Sparky. Everyone knows who Sparky is. And that's a new design I came up with many years ago. That's Saboteur the smoke alarm, which we like to take out when we go in person and which we'll continue to do after COVID-19. So some of the topics in my classroom obviously are all tied back to home fire safety: smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, home fire escape planning, unattended cooking, and then obviously with COVID-19, there was an increase in use of hand sanitizers, etc. I also added in my classroom children's videos, which children could watch and relate to. Similar to other fire departments, I created some videos of our firefighters, which really brought the, what I found was, as an authority, as a community partner, people liked the fact that we were still here. As an emergency responder, we were reaching out to them. So people really liked the idea that we had videos of our firefighters. Basically, it was a video station tour that they went through. And as well, I've got photos of our staff and fire trucks for the people that like fire trucks out there. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as I mentioned already, I set up my classroom via a personal Gmail account. One of the challenges initially that teachers and school boards were approaching me with is when they went to register for my classroom, they were using their school email account. And for the first couple of times, they said, I can't get in, I can't get in. I'm thinking, well, I can see it, it's right there. And then I went and did a bit of research, and there's obviously you know, security flags that come up for the school board. So if you're going to use this, just tell the public they have to use a personal Gmail account. They can't use their school board for whatever school policy won't control it. As of last week, I have 52 students that have registered to my classroom. They're students, parents, teachers, and again, I've included the public, Catholic, and private school boards. So what I did is I I take care of our Twitter account and our social media here. So when it came in March, I tweeted out this classroom, and I've also notified them as well with this is a resource for this school year. Obviously, because a lot of students are still maybe doing online, or it's still an option for them. So as of today, as I said, I've gotten great feedback from teachers and residents. Again, it's that communication piece that we're still trying to get our messages across. I think initially, again, people were just happy that we're reaching out to them to say, hey, we're going to help you get through this, and a bit of a comfort level. And just photos down below, those are door knocker brochures that I've had translated into Mandarin and Arabic. That are resources as well on our classroom for obviously other nationalities. Next slide, please. And then there is, sorry, don't make fun of my artwork. I'm not the best artist, but that's basically my classroom here at the fire hall. And I just thought, what a great way to advertise it. So if you're interested, there is the title of our classroom, Waterloo Fire Rescue, Fire and Life Safety, Public Education. Again, please use a personal Gmail account, and the class code is below CKO H3RF. And that's who I am. There's my email. If you want to send me an email, if you have any questions, there's our Twitter account. But yeah, it's been a great resource. So thanks again for the opportunity to present today. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
Oh, looks like we're still minus Laura's audio. Thanks, John. So I think we're still working on Jess's audio, so I'm going to give her a couple more minutes. And Lorianne, if you are ready, maybe we'll have you go ahead now.
Hi there, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. So hello, everyone, and thanks for having us here. I think Kaylee and Tanya are here somewhere with me, and they may be able to answer some questions later as well with their involvement. So of course, we had to look at a new way to spin our Home Safe Home. Previously, the crews would attend the homes. They would have select streets that they would go to. They would conduct a Home Safe Home inspection, ensuring that there's working smoke sense COs. Of course, due to COVID, we had to look at a different way to be able to get inside. Go ahead. So the overview is our typical Home Safe Home program was a door-to-door educational program. And what we did was we said, well, let's go virtual. Let's see if we can get in there and make it as easy as possible for us to be able to use some technologies and be able to have the homeowner or tenants test the smoke alarms and COs. Again, we didn't want to get too inundated with them, and so we did book specific times, so Tuesdays and Thursdays between 9 and 10:30 in the morning and 2:30 and 4 in the afternoon. They could call the number that was provided and that extension. It would reach to me, and then I would use a scheduling program and notify the inspector, whether it be Tanya or Kaylee, that they had an upcoming virtual Home Safe Home. And so we would then use that video to be able to go through the home with the person and have them test their alarms and let us hear them beep. The data that we collected would then be entered into our GIS so that we would be able to have stats, some data on the homes that were inspected at that time. Thank you. So how we promoted it was through flyers. We first used, we also did chalk one up for fire safety. So we put on the back of the flyer the virtual Home Safe Home. We did direct street mailing. So we picked specific streets within the communities. So we picked streets in Keswick, Sutton, and Pefferlaw. And we said, okay, in the last 3 years, if those homes did not have a Home Safe Home conducted by the crews, we would send out this mail out to them. Twitter, Facebook, and the web page, Kaylee kept those up to date as well. The platforms that we used were Zoom, FaceTime, and Skype. And anyone who participated and they were confirmed to have working smoke alarms, then we gave them a free pizza dinner. The total cost of this program to date is $79.59. So partnerships that we currently have for this program is with Pizzaville in Sutton and Domino's Pizza here in Keswick. Okay, go ahead. So our evaluation on it, the virtual home safe home inspections conducted to date. So on FaceTime, we've done 7. Zoom, we've done 5. Skype, we've done 2. However, we've got a lot of phone calls. So I've received phone calls where persons, possibly seniors or persons who do not have the ability to do one of these 3 platforms. So they called. And then they would say, well, we can do it and we can test and you can listen to us do the testing. That was acceptable. However, some persons called and they were seniors and they don't have a cell phone or tablets. So what we did was, in those particular instances, we asked them, are you comfortable with the crew attending, wearing PPE, and we'll conduct an in-person test of your smoke alarms and COs. So we did have the crews still going out conducting home safe homes as well. This program will run until the end of the year. Initially, we thought, oh, maybe in September we'll be able to get the crews back out to conduct home safe homes, but of course with COVID and still the restrictions, we won't be able to. Some lessons learned and some future plans. Well, direct mailing seemed to create the most interest. We did that direct mailing. That's where we got most of our responses from. When we did do Facebook and Twitter, I believe we didn't, I think maybe we got 1 and it was a phone call. Other than that, most of it was through the direct mailing. We are currently working on expanding the program again with Pizzaville and Domino's. So what we want to do now is for Fire Prevention Week, the pizza boxes will actually have a Fire Prevention Week message on the front, but on the back of it, it will also have the virtual home safe home. So the box topper will give both messages. And we're currently working with McDonald's and looking to participate in the program. So we know that we possibly may hit some other persons that travel through the drive-through. Not everyone that goes through the drive-through is from Georgina. However, those that are from Georgina, they will have the piece of paper that's going to be inside of the drive-through bag that says, contact us for a virtual home safe home. In addition, some of the other lessons, they're not listed here, but one I think we'll all agree is that not everyone is got the tech savvy. So sometimes, again, muting, they didn't know how to turn off their mute, or possibly their screen was upside down. So there was some technical issues, but we worked through them. So if you want any further information on it, contact myself or Tanya or Kaylee, and we'll be more than happy to share our idea with you. Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you, Lorianne, and Tanya and Kaylee as well, even though we didn't see you. So hopefully your McDonald's thing and the box toppers work well and you get good response from that. Jessica, I know you're back online. We think we've got the audio sorted out. Can we just do a test before we make Laura flip through the slide deck back to your presentation?
Sure, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yay! Normally technology works a little better for me. We're here now though, that's good.
For sure, it's Murphy's Law.
That's right, it 100% is.
All right, so we'll let Laura go back through the slides here, back to your presentation, and then we'll get you going. There we are. Okay, it's all yours, Jess.
Okay, perfect. Welcome everybody. So Family Resource Kits was our fire prevention public education initiative that we took Back just after the whole COVID thing started, obviously I was really looking forward to getting into the schools. I just started in public education here in November, so it was a bit of a learning curve to get into, having to do it a little bit differently, and I was definitely looking forward to seeing the kids in person and doing all that. But it is what it was, so we had to come up with something different. The family resource kits came, the idea actually came from the library, which we partnered with, but originally they had put together some packages that were available for pickup, just kind of they had a set amount of number, you could come, first serve. So we wanted to do something similar to that, but have people sign up for it so that we could directly deliver them to the homes. And that way we were, I guess, sort of eliminating maybe people all in one spot at the same time. It would just be us doing porch drop-offs. And if people happen to be there, it would be kind of a conversation through the door or, the window. So initially this is our sign up that we put out. We did just do it over social media. Right now, we currently have a Twitter account for our West Perth and Perth East Fire Department together, so that we look after both fire departments, so at Mitchell, and then we have 3 stations in the Perth East area as well. We also have Facebook, but it is only right now our township Facebook. So we do a lot of sharing back and forth, but that is one thing we're looking at expanding, is our social media presence. I think there is quite a bit of people that we're not reaching just because we only have Twitter, and there's maybe not the same amount of people on Twitter now, or the target population that we're looking at getting our messages out to, more so maybe on Facebook, Instagram, possibly Snapchat, but that's a little bit, we'll see how that one goes. So yeah, we've just basically put it out there that if families were interested in having one of these resource kits, that they contact us by email, or they can phone in to me directly. They would give us the address, they would give us the number of children they had in the home and the ages of those children, as well as a designated spot that they wanted us to drop it off if they weren't going to be home. So you can go to the next slide here now. So the kit contents, we had a lot of stuff on our shelves as far as contents go, for activity books for the kids, a lot of the NFPA ones, the Sparky ones, and then crayons, erasers, pencils. We had a lot of giveaways that we just had collected over the years, and it was a good chance to get some of that off the shelves and into the hands of our residents. We had obviously the kids' fire hats as well. They're always a really nice thing for the kids to put on, and they love playing firefighter. So that's a big draw as well. We included I did a lot of printing off of the NFPA website as well. The home escape plan layout sheets, that was a big thing that we were really trying to promote now that people were spending a lot more time at home, is making sure that they had their home escape plans with their kids at home. So that was included. We did have some giveaway items for the parents as well. This cost to us was sort of something we had already spent on. We usually do a home show in the spring where we give away, we get a package of things like the flippers and basting brushes and toothbrush holders and all that good stuff. So we already had that sitting on the shelves. We weren't able to use it as the home show was canceled. So we had all that stuff as well. So we did give away some items in the bags for the parents as well. And then our partnerships that we had also included some items in the bag as well. So emergency management out of Perth County, we had their booklets basically on all different types of emergencies that people should prepare for. So we put those in the bags. And then also activity sheets and resource information from the library. So because they had already done something similar, they had some resources that they had already put together, and more or less just activities for the kids, and then other ways that they could access resources in the libraries as well, virtually, for more extended learning, because we were doing lots of at-home learning at that point. So we can go to the next slide there. So assembly and delivery, it was a little bit time consuming, I will say. I put all the bags together myself. So it was 3 days worth of work to get them all done. And you can see in the one picture there, them all lined up beside the fire truck. So there was quite a few. And because I had the ages of the children, I was really trying to gear what I was putting in the bags towards the age of those children, which in the feedback, I guess, looking at it now, I would say that we might have put an age limit on it when we set it out, just because there is so many more resources for those smaller kids. We did have a few people sign up with kids in their family that were, 15, 16, and we don't really have a lot of those resource necessarily to hand out. It's more, you know, the coloring books and things for the little ones. So that would be maybe something we would change in the future as well, if we were to do it again. So for the age of the children, if they were 2 and over, I each gave them their own bag. And that way they had their own things. I have 3 kids at home, so I know that, oh, I got one, you didn't type of thing comes out quite a bit. So I wanted it to be fair for all the kids. If the kids were under 2, obviously probably not going to understand getting their own bag. So I just threw some of our items for the little toddler kids in one of the other kids' bags. So they would have something to play with and do as well. 2 days for the delivery. So we took one municipality one day, second the next day, and I used the Google Maps to just map out each of our locations on there to figure out the quickest route so we wouldn't be driving around all day long. Go to the next one there. So partnerships, kind of already mentioned this, but we did partner with both the Perth East and the West Perth libraries, so they contributed their resources, and then again, as well as the Perth County Emergency Management stuff as well. So we were getting lots of different resources in there for parents and kids both. Next one. So the last just feedback results on it. So a lot of people, I guess, starting off, I could say our checking into it, our feedback, or our looking into how effective the program could have been a little bit better. We did get lots of pictures sent via email and Twitter of people that received it. So we put a lot of information on our Twitter account after we did it. I actually dressed up as Sparky and we went around and delivered a couple of the packages as Sparky and just got some video of that. So people could see that, you know, if they weren't home and they found the package on their doorstep, that, oh, Sparky delivered it to my house. So that was kind of fun. One thing, obviously, limited contact with people. We did see a few people, talk to people through a couple windows. It is always nice to get that face-to-face interaction for them to see the truck, because we went out with one of our vehicles as well. So that is a little bit sad, I guess, in a sense that I like the interaction, and it's just been a bit of a downer, I guess, with the COVID. But and the follow-up again, we did get lots of shares and likes on our social media, but I guess as far as numbers and that go, we probably could have followed up with that a little bit better. But overall, people seem to really enjoy the kits. Like I said, we got the lots of pictures, and I think if we were to do it again, we just might target a specific age of kids for the resources that we have available.
Oh, we don't have you back yet, Laura. All right. Thank you, Jess. So as Laura's going through the slides here, David, are you good with your audio?
Should be. Can you hear me
Okay,
now?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
I can hear you. So we'll let Laura forward through the slides here. Just while we're doing that, just a couple quick questions. So Sarah, there was a question in the chat initially as to whether there was any pushback or concern about people picking up or touching the rocks. So we'll get you to answer that after, but that question came out. So if you could just have an answer prepared for after David is done. And we are at your presentation, David, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, perfect. So we were asked about 2 programs. We ran 2. One was our pizza party program, and the other one was taken to the streets. And they were both at different times. The pizza party one was, we did that when we were in the isolation phase, and taking it to the streets is when things started to open up during the summertime. So again, my name is David Scott. I'm the pub ed officer for Russell Fire Department. We're located east of Ottawa. We're a smaller community. We're a 100% volunteer department. We got a population of about 6,000. So we're on the smaller scale of what the departments compared to some of the other ones here. So we again looked at it and how we were going to reach people without, you know, so many restrictions. So we'll go to the next slide, which is our pizza party one, which is sort of an extension of a program we already run, our fire safety checklist, which is actually done through the schools. So this one we went with an online campaign because of the fact that it was isolation time. So it was a complete online campaign where we asked residents to go on and fill in a questionnaire, and by doing so they would get a ballot. They would get an additional ballot if they actually sent us a photo of them testing their smoke alarm, so they would get 2 ballots at that point. Each each week we draw at random 2 ballots, and they received a pizza dinner, which was like a large pizza, fries, and a couple of Cokes or something like that, and from one of our local restaurants. We didn't look for sponsorship. We said sponsorship because of the fact at the time we were always concerned that our local businesses were going to be suffering at the same time. So we said, no, we're going to pay for it to give them some money for their account, and also to help promote their business, so that, in the future, when we do look for favors, they'll probably be a little bit more receptive to us. Total cost to us was $400. So it was not a big expense, and it was actually very easy on manpower. Again, with the isolation thing, everything was going to be delivered to the house. So it didn't really demand anybody being in contact with anybody. So if you go to the next slide, please. So our strategies was to use our online presence. Again, we use a Twitter account. We use Facebook like everybody else. We did get very good numbers on it. And we had an incentive for people to participate, the pizza dinner. And the other part of requiring people to go through the steps of filling out a list to get their ballot, we're not naive enough to think that they did every step, but at the very least, it reminded them. So we said, one of them would be test your smoke alarm, discuss your fire escape plan. Did they do it? Probably not in a number of cases, but at least at one point they thought about it. So again, it's part of the presence of fire education. Asking for the photos was actually really successful because people wanted that second ballot. So we actually got a lot of photos that got a cachet of now that we can use for promotional uses on our websites or on our social media accounts. And just a continued presence within the community during the time when COVID was very hard hitting on everybody. So our results on that, we ran this for 4 weeks. Our first week started out slow, 50 ballots, and we had about over 100, and then 90, 60. So it started to peter down, which we expected. And after 4 weeks, we decided to cut the program to maintain a fresh, move on to our next program to keep something fresh. And again, we have a bank of photos now that we can use. And we'll probably use this again in the future because it was actually pretty successful. We got a lot of attention on it. So if you go to the next couple of slides, these are just samples of the photos that people were sending us. The big thing seemed to be picking up your kids to test your smoke alarm. So we got a lot of good photos like that. So go to the next one. And that's one of our winners on the left. And I don't know if you can't see it in the message, but they kind of wrote a message thanking us and a little fire safety message. So that was kind of nice. So we'll go to the next one. And this is our Taking to the Streets campaign. This was done during the summertime where things had opened up. People were now, we were not in the isolation phase, so there was a little bit more contact between families and creating their circles or pods, I guess, of contact. So what our thinking on this one was more of a direct approach. We knew there was a lot of online stuff going on, which has been great, but we said, no, we got to do a little something different. We got to get out there and actually see people again. But how do we do it without making big contact? So we came up with this program where essentially we drove around the truck, and I can see on the truck there, we have 2 big banners on it. And we handed out our fire safety information pamphlets and our cachet of kids hats to all the kids. And what we did is we set up the village in about 18 routes, and we did 2 per week. And using our social media account, we could publicize where we were going, which area we were targeting each week, and it created a buzz in those areas. And it actually, the program took off quite well because the community became, you drive down the street and you see all the families be lining up on the end of their driveways with lawn chairs and the kids, and for us to come by. So it was good. During this, all of our people were in with masks and gloves at all times. So there was no contact with anything that we touched, even before in the hall, had to be done with gloves and with masks on. Total cost in this for us was about $1,000. The big thing was probably we used up our yearly supply of the kids' hats, and we handed out a lot of pamphlets. Wasn't a big deal because we typically go through those anyways at our fall fair, which was canceled. So it was a cost, but it wasn't something a cost that we actually brought on to the department. So we can go to the next slide. So again, with this was a reduced capacity. As I say, I've got my strategies and our results, which I kind of covered with you. The main thing that we found on this was the direct contact was something I think people were looking for without actually touching and being, you know, in close contact. So it created a lot of a good event in our town, especially with the fact that people were restricted what they could do. Soccer is huge in our town, and there was none of that. So people during the week were actually looking to do things, and a lot of people weren't on vacation. So it created a little event around town, and it was very, very well received. And if you go to the next photo, this is just some photos that we had taken. People were very receptive to the photos, sending us photos, or if we would take photos and say, can we post it? They said no issues with it. Again, it was creating that buzz in town about you know, just almost like a parade atmosphere, to be honest with you. Our social media hits were very big. Our average post was getting about 2,000 views, and we had peaks of 5,000 and 10,000 views. And again, our department, our area actually that we service is only about 6,000 people. So it was getting spread quite around, probably by people to family members and things like that. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you to everybody, and some great information being that I'm looking at and probably going to steal.
That's what we do it for. So Laura, do you have audio yet? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, thanks, David. So I didn't see a whole lot of questions pop up in the chat other than the one that I did already mention for Sarah. So Sarah, are you still on here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, perfect. So the question was about the whether there's any pushback or concerns about protocols for people picking up or touching the rocks. I don't know if you have a response to that.
Yeah, so on our end, there was really no pushback or anything. As far as we were concerned, we painted the rocks, they dried, waited a few days before we took them out. So nothing really on our end. As far as people picking up the rocks, the beauty of the program is that they can see the message without having to touch it. We put the information out on social media, so people were aware that they were out there. We received photos of kids picking up the rocks. We received photos of kids sitting beside the rocks. So it all kind of came down to more what the parent was comfortable with. And when you're out walking around, you see everybody with the hand sanitizer and Lysol wipes in their wagons, in their strollers. So I think it was more what the parents' comfort level was. And it wasn't something new in the community. There were other people painting rocks and putting them out in places. So it wasn't a new initiative that people had to wrap their head around that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions out there before I turn it over to Kevin for a bit of a wrap up? And Laura, if we got your audio back, we'll let you have a moment too. But if there's any other questions out there, either throw on your mic or throw it in the chat, and we will take a couple seconds to do some questions. It looks like overwhelming silence at the moment. Otherwise, microphones just aren't working.
All right. Can you hear me?
So Kevin, Laura, I will turn it back to you guys then.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Well, look at that. We respected the 90 minutes, so we're done at 11, just a little bit before. Excellent. So being forced to reinvent our community outreach programs due to COVID-19 has been a challenge for everyone, and I'd like to thank all the presenters for sharing their innovative community outreach programs that they have rolled out over the last couple of months. I think that there were some great ideas shared that the public educators from across the province should and will be or have been inspired by. So great job, and thank you so much for sharing. I'd like to thank Laura King from NFPA for your support, and we look forward to collaborating with you again in the very near future. I'd also like to give a good shout out to Shannon for all the hard work that she has done behind the scenes, putting both this webinar together as well as the first webinar. Excuse me. I hope that you all enjoyed your workshop. Now it's time to get focused for the upcoming Fire Prevention Week that is quickly approaching. So good luck, take care, and we'll talk to you all soon.